there comes a moment, quiet, ordinary, and yet unforgettable, when you feel the weight of the world pressing against your chest. It could be at dawn, when the alarm rings, and your body refuses to move. It could be in the middle of the night, when your thoughts echo too loudly inside your skull. Or maybe it's in that silent space between breaths, when you realize you are tired, not just of the effort, but of starting over again. You've fallen before, you've failed before, and each time you told yourself you'd rise again, but somewhere along the way that fire dimmed. The conviction that once burned in you has turned to smoke. It's strange, isn't it? How easy it is to motivate yourself for a day, for a week, even for a month. But then life pushes back, and when it does, your mind whispers, maybe this isn't worth it anymore. You look around and see people succeeding, moving forward, winning, and you wonder if there's something wrong with you, something missing. You used to dream with conviction. Now you dream with caution. You used to run toward what you wanted. Now you hesitate at the starting line. It's not that you don't want to try. It's that you're afraid to hope again. Afraid that if you give everything and fail again, it'll destroy you. So you settle for less. You start to protect yourself with words like, maybe later, it's not the right time, I'm still figuring things out. But deep inside, you know, those are just gentle ways of saying, I'm scared. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're simply exhausted from carrying the weight of disappointment. And yet, there's still something inside you that refuses to die. A voice, small but steady, that says, there's more in me. I'm not done yet. That's the voice I'm talking to right now. Not the one that doubts, but the one that endures. Because if you're still here, listening, breathing, trying, it means that part of you still believes. And maybe that's all you need to begin again. The truth is, no one escapes this struggle. Every person you admire, every athlete, artist, or visionary who seems unshakable, has met this same darkness. They've all heard that inner voice whisper, give up. They just learned how to respond differently. That's the difference. Not talent, not luck, not circumstances, but how they trained their mind when everything in them wanted to stop. Because giving up doesn't happen when your body fails. It happens when your mind surrenders first. So if you want to master endurance, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual, you have to train your mind to never give up. But how do you do that? How do you reprogram a mind that's been shaped by fear, failure, and fatigue? How do you keep going when everything in you says, enough? That's what we'll uncover together, not through hype, not through empty motivation, but through understanding, through rewiring the way you see struggle itself. Because once your perception changes, your endurance becomes limitless. Let's begin where most people quit, in the loop. We live in cycles. You start strong, new goal, new project, new version of yourself. For a while, everything feels alive. You wake up with energy, you imagine the future, you taste possibility. Then something shifts. The excitement fades. You hit resistance. Maybe it's a setback, a bad day, or a small failure. Doesn't matter. The dopamine fades. The reality sets in, and suddenly your mind starts talking. This isn't working. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe it's just not meant to be. This is the loop. The human loop. Excitement, thigh, effort, twice resistance, doubt, escape, fadi, escape, regret, shabit. Most people spend their entire lives trapped in that cycle. They mistake the drop in motivation for a sign that they're failing, when it's actually a test. They mistake fatigue for weakness, when it's just adaptation. You see, your mind is designed for comfort, not greatness. It wants predictability, safety, and ease. So every time you push beyond your limits, it fights back. Not to punish you, but to protect you. But protection and growth are opposites. You can't evolve and stay safe at the same time. So what happens? Most people negotiate. They start shrinking their dreams to fit their comfort zone. They rationalize mediocrity as realism. They stop dreaming big because it hurts less to expect little. And slowly, they stop living fully. They exist, but they don't evolve. You felt that before, haven't you? That quiet grief of potential wasted. The dull ache that comes not from failure, but from knowing you didn't even try long enough to find out what could have been. That's the real pain. Not falling, but quitting too early. Because every time you quit, you teach your mind one thing: that your limits define you. And yet, your mind can be trained. It can learn new responses. It can learn to see struggle not as suffering, but as transformation. But to rewire it, you must first understand it. Your mind is like a wild horse, powerful, beautiful, capable of crossing any terrain if you learn how to guide it. But most people never take the reins. They let the horse decide where to go, when to stop, and how fast to run. They don't realize the mind doesn't respond to what's easy. It responds to what's consistent. Let's look at the greatest performers on earth. Michael Jordan wasn't built on talent. He was built on resilience. He missed more than 9,000 shots, lost over 300 games, 26 times. He was trusted to take the game, winning shot, and missed. He once said, "I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Because each failure wasn't an ending. It was training. Every missed shot rewired his mind to handle pressure, to detach from fear, to adapt faster. He wasn't training his body. He was training his brain. The same goes for Serena Williams, Kobe Bryant, Elon Musk, and every other outlier. What separates them is not genius. It's persistence under pressure. They built a tolerance for frustration so strong it became their advantage. And that's something you can build too. But it starts with one realization: the shift. What if the goal isn't to feel motivated all the time? What if the goal is to act even when you don't? Because here's the truth: motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire, and the fire doesn't need to feel good to keep burning. That's the turning point. When you stop waiting to feel ready and start training your mind to move regardless of how you feel. Because feelings are fleeting, but habits are loyal. So the question isn't, how do I stay inspired? The question is, how do I stay consistent when I'm not? This is where training begins. Not in the gym, not in the office, not on the field, but in your response to resistance. When your body says, stop. When your mind says, you can't. That's when the training starts. The goal is not to eliminate the voice of doubt. It's to outlast it. Imagine this. You wake up one morning, feeling completely drained. Your mind starts negotiating. Maybe I'll rest today. I'll try again tomorrow. But instead of giving in, you say, just one step, not the whole mountain. Just one step. You take that step, and something shifts. You feel a spark of momentum, and that spark becomes a pattern. Because the mind doesn't change through thought. It changes through evidence. Each time you push when it's hard, you give your mind proof that you can, and proof becomes identity. That's how the transformation happens. Quietly, gradually, invisibly, until one day you wake up and realize you've become the kind of person who never gives up. That's the revelation. You don't need to fight your thoughts. You just need to retrain their meaning. Every time you feel resistance, it's not a sign to stop. It's a signal to grow. Every setback is not punishment. It's preparation. Every doubt is not weakness. It's the doorway to strength, because your mind can't evolve in comfort. It only evolves through challenge. And the people who seem unbreakable aren't fearless. They've simply built the habit of persistence. You see, training your mind is not a moment. It's not a single burst of inspiration. It's a lifetime of quiet repetitions, unseen by others, but deeply felt by you. The climb is made of small acts. Getting up one more time, choosing to try again when your pride is bruised, learning to breathe when everything inside you screams to quit. That's what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The ones who win are not the ones who never feel pain, but the ones who learn to carry it with grace. Every time you face resistance and choose to move forward, you strengthen something inside you, something invisible but real, like a muscle of the mind, and with each repetition, that muscle grows stronger. The first lesson of never giving up is acceptance, not the kind that says it's fine when it's not, but the deep kind, the kind that acknowledges reality and still chooses to act. You accept that struggle is not the enemy. You accept that pain will visit often. You accept that the journey will take longer than you hoped, and you walk anyway. There's a moment in every great story, the turning point when the hero stops running from the storm and starts walking into it. That's the moment you begin to live differently, because you realize it's not about escaping the challenge. It's about evolving through it. The mountain doesn't get smaller. You just grow stronger. Legs. There was a time when Kobe Bryant trained in the dark before sunrise. Every single day. He once said, "I knew that while everyone else slept, I was earning something they would never see, an edge." That edge wasn't about skill. It was about the mind. When you train in the dark, you learn to see without light. You learn to trust effort over applause. You stop chasing validation and start building conviction. That's how champions are made, not by talent, but by invisible mornings of perseverance. The second lesson is detachment. The mind that never gives up doesn't cling to outcomes. It clings to process, because attachment creates pressure, and pressure creates fear. When your identity depends on success, failure becomes unbearable. So train yourself to let go of the result and fall in love with the climb itself. When you no longer need to win to feel worthy, you become unstoppable, because then even loss becomes data, not defeat. There's a beauty in this mindset. Quiet, humble, unwavering. You're no longer performing for the world. You're mastering yourself. The third lesson is resilience through repetition. Most people underestimate how long mastery takes. They give up not because they can't, but because they thought it would be easier. They want transformation without repetition, but repetition is the mother of change. The brain learns through loops, not leaps. Every time you repeat a behavior under stress, you're coding endurance into your neural circuits. So when life tests you again, and it will, you'll respond automatically with strength, because you've practiced it. Repetition is how steel is forged. Fire, pressure, cooling, fire again. The process looks brutal, but it creates something unbreakable. And so it is with your mind. The fourth lesson is vision. If you don't know what you're fighting for, fatigue wins. You can't endure pain without purpose. That's why your mind must be anchored to something deeper than comfort. A vision that transcends circumstance. Ask yourself, why does this matter? Not, why do I want it? But, why must I become the person who achieves it? Because once your reason becomes personal, resistance becomes fuel. You stop running from pain and start using it to sharpen you. You'll notice something interesting. As you grow, the more you evolve, the quieter the noise becomes. The world may still doubt you, but your mind doesn't argue anymore. It simply acts. That's the hidden gift of persistence. Peace. When you train your mind to stay, to focus, to keep moving forward, you stop being reactive to every emotion, every opinion. You become like water, fluid, adaptable, but unstoppable. But then comes the storm, because no matter how strong you become, there will always come a moment when life strikes harder than you expected. You'll think you're prepared, and suddenly the ground collapses beneath you. The job you worked for disappears. The relationship you built your world around ends. Your health, your finances, your faith, tested all at once, and the voice returns. What's the point? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I've already given enough. This is the moment that breaks most people, not because they're weak, but because they mistake darkness for ending, when it's actually evolution. The storm doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to reveal what's real in you. Every test you face has one purpose: to expose your training, to show you whether you truly believe what you've been telling yourself. It's easy to say, never give up, when things are working. It's another thing entirely when everything is falling apart. That's when the concept becomes character. You might cry, you might fall to your knees, you might question everything you once believed. That's okay, because perseverance isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking and rebuilding stronger. Even steel bends under pressure, but it doesn't stay bent. It remembers its form. So when you reach your lowest point, remember this: you are not failing. You are forming. You are not weak. You are rewriting what strength means to you. And every second you choose to breathe, to try, to stand again, you're teaching your mind something sacred, that you are still here. The human mind learns through proof, and survival is the greatest proof of all. You've survived heartbreak. You've survived disappointment. You've survived the voice that said you can't. And if you've done that, you can do this too. I remember a story. An old marathon runner once said, "The race is won not by the fastest legs, but by the mind that doesn't stop moving them." Think about that. The body can only go as far as the mind allows. That's why in those last miles, when every cell screams for rest, champions talk to themselves differently. They say, one more step. They breathe. They focus. They surrender to the rhythm of progress. And somehow they finish. Maybe your race isn't on a track. Maybe it's in a classroom, or a relationship, or a dream you've been building quietly for years. But the principle is the same. Keep moving. No matter how small the step, no matter how slow the pace, forward is forward, because one day you'll look back and realize that what once broke you has become your foundation. The mind that never gives up learns to reinterpret pain, to see every obstacle not as opposition, but as instruction. The rejection letter, redirection, the failure, refinement, the heartbreak, recalibration. Life isn't against you, it's coaching you. Each setback is a new level of training, more precise, more personal, more necessary. And when you start to see life this way, something beautiful happens. You stop running from challenges. You start seeking them, not because you enjoy suffering, but because you recognize it as the only path to mastery. There's a peace that comes with that realization, a quiet confidence. The noise fades, the fear fades, and what remains is clarity. You realize you don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. You don't need external motivation. You've built your own engine, and when your engine runs on conviction instead of emotion, you can go forever. So the next time your mind says, "I can't," I want you to hear this. Instead, "I'm learning." The next time it says, "I'm tired," say, "I'm adapting." The next time it says, "It's over," say, "This is where I begin again." Because every ending is a test of faith, not in life, but in yourself. You are capable of far more than you can see. You just haven't met the version of you that exists beyond the struggle. But if you keep walking, you will. Now imagine this. You're standing in front of a mirror. Years from now, you look into your own eyes and recognize the person staring back. The scars are still there. The memories still echo, but something is different. There's calm in your gaze, strength, quiet and unshakable. You realize that everything you thought was breaking you was actually building you, and the person you are now, the one who endured, persisted, kept showing up, is proof that the training worked. That's what never give up truly means. Not forcing yourself to fight blindly, not ignoring your pain, but trusting that every struggle is part of the becoming, because the goal was never perfection. It was evolution. And in that evolution, you find freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from self-doubt. Freedom from the idea that failure defines you. When your mind has learned to stay grounded in chaos, you stop living in survival and start living in strength. This is the quiet victory. The moment you realize that persistence is not about never falling, it's about never losing faith in your ability to rise. You don't have to win every battle. You just have to stay in the fight long enough for the tide to turn, and it always does. So today, take one small step. Don't aim for perfection. Just progress, because one step becomes 2, 2 become 10, and before you know it, you're running again. You may not control how fast the path unfolds, but you do control whether you keep walking, and that's everything. Remember, the mind gives up long before the body does. So when you feel like you've reached your limit, stay one breath longer. That's where growth hides. Every great story, every masterpiece, every revolution began with someone who refused to stop. You are no different. You've already proven your resilience in 1,000 silent ways. Every heartbreak survived. Every morning you got up when you didn't want to. Every dream you dared to keep alive when no one believed. That's not luck. That's endurance. That's you, already stronger than you realize. And maybe that's the final lesson. You don't train your mind to never give up by forcing it to be hard. You train it by teaching it love. Love for the process. Love for the growth. Love for the strength born from struggle. Because love, not anger, not fear, is the most powerful force of persistence. When you love your evolution, quitting stops making sense. So the next time you stand at the edge of your breaking point, close your eyes, take a breath, and whisper to yourself, I've been here before. I know this feeling, and I know how to rise. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your truth. Because the mind that never gives up isn't born. It's built, moment by moment, through every challenge you overcome. And one day, when you look back at the distance you've traveled, you'll realize you didn't just train your mind to endure. You trained it to believe. And belief, that quiet, stubborn, unshakable faith in yourself, is the most powerful force in the universe. Never give up, because life isn't testing your strength, it's revealing it. And when you understand that, you've already won.